story today begins in the UK with the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who has finally declared his wife's direct investments in a childcare firm. Well, the declaration, it comes as Sunak faces a parliamentary probe, and attacks from the opposition Labour Party over conflicts of interest in government contracts for childcare. Well, the declaration, it reveals that Akshata Murty is a venture capital investor and owns a venture capital investment company called Catamaran Ventures UK Limited, with a number of direct shareholders. Now, the holdings include shares in the firm Coro Kids, which was given contracts under a national childcare programme. Sunak had not released Akshata Murty's shareholdings in previous lists, even when he was Chancellor of the Exchequer. Well, the list, it comes out after the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner launched the probe into shares that Sunak's wife holds in childcare agency Coro Kids. Now, the probe, it comes in the wake of Chancellor Jeremy Hunt announcing a plan for childcare caretakers. Under the proposed plan, the incentive will increase if workers sign up through one of the 6 agencies, which includes the childcare agency Coro Kids. Now, the public version of the list includes financial and other interests that are directly relevant to ministers' roles. It also consists of interests held by close relatives. Opposition lawmakers have been demanding a separate release of Sunak's financial interests. Well, 10 Downing Street had refused, saying there are no plans to publish Sunak's interests separately. The list has been prepared by the Prime Minister's ethics advisor, a position which was vacant for 6 months before it was filled last December. Well, the Conservative Party has come in for flack for late publication of the list. The list of interests of all ministers is required to be published twice a year, and the last update came 11 months ago. Well, the Labour Party says the PM showed a complete lack of transparency and urged a review of the process of declaring the list. Well, the list also reveals the interests of other key Tory members as well, like the UK Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab paid from his own pockets for the legal aid during the ongoing probe on him for bullying civil servants in his previous roles. UK Chancellor Jeremy Hunt has also updated his interests too, where he mentioned the property firm he owns jointly with his wife. Okay, lots to unpack here. We've got Renaud Bocard joining us here, a political analyst and a senior lecturer in economics from Lancaster University. Thank you so much for your time. So, has Sunak really done anything wrong here? What's your view?
It's pretty complicated. The challenge for Sunak is that he gets the job largely because he looks, in contrast to Boris Johnson before him, as this serious, responsible, honest businessman. And the fact that his wife has so much money somehow was seen as a way to protect him. Like Boris Johnson needed a lot of money every week just to sustain his lifestyle. Sunak is seen as someone who doesn't need that. But then his wife, being a venture capitalist, she has a lot of different interests. And the role of the ethics advisor is someone who is supposed to check all those interests and to see whether they interfere with the everyday business. In that case, it seems that before announcing the policy on childcare, he did not come back to the ethics advisor, or he didn't think that it was worthwhile doing so. I think in many ways it can be seen as carelessness, but the problem really is that the big challenge for Sunak was to cut with this reputation of Tory sleaze, conflict of interest everywhere, dishonesty. And every time there is a small glitch like that, because in the end it's relatively small money for Sunak's family, but every time there is a small glitch like that, it brings back the suspicion, it brings back the general feeling that the party is corrupt and fails to declare its interest. And if you remember, Boris Johnson didn't lose his job mostly because of the parties, but largely because of failing to tell the truth on relationship with others. So it started with a scandal on contracts during the COVID crisis. It ended up in protecting MPs accused of sexual harassment, but the lack of transparency seemed to have been at the core of the distrust of the Conservative Party. And if Sunak doesn't manage to look at this transparent person, he will fail to bring back the party from the very, very low poll ratings they have at the moment.
And it's interesting the way you've contrasted, Johnson and his behaviour as well. You mentioned sort of carelessness there. Do you think that's the main crime here then?
I do believe that it can very be genuinely the case that in his everyday business, Rishi Sunak is not aware of everything his wife does with the massive amount of money she has. We are talking about someone who is extremely rich, extremely wealthy, and in some ways you can expect that it's not his job to do that. So the problem is really the system. How come there is no more precise, no better tracking of his interest by the ethics advisor? I fully understand when they come and they say, I don't want to reveal my wife's every single financial interest. It makes complete sense. They have a right to some sort of privacy. But this right of privacy needs to be counterbalanced by the fact that every actual interest is declared. So I think what this calls at the moment for is for a larger role for this ethics advisor who could be in charge of live monitoring of announcement every time there is a major policy announcement, being able to check back with the Prime Minister and indeed with every single possible minister involved in the process that there is no personal interest directly or for the family. And what also hurts, I think, Rishi Sunak a bit, is that there are many examples of MPs and members of the government who, in similar situations, have voluntarily declared family interest. So the fact that he didn't do it makes him look a little bit, at the very least, careless. But conflict of interest, once it starts, there is suspicion everywhere, and it becomes very, very difficult to show that you are very clean when everything rests on trust. It's based on the fact that everyone trusts that the declarations are accurate. When there is one mistake, people may start doubting about the rest too.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. As you say, trust is at the centre of all of this. Renaud, thank you so much indeed. That's Renaud Foucault there, political analyst and senior lecturer in economics from Lancaster University. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.